What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Scene Snobs podcast. I am your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I am joined today by a very special guest. I've been trying to get on the show for a while, and I am very excited to have him here. He is the director of the short film Mount Skylight, and he is the producer of the soon-to-be feature film, 100% Virginia feature film, Mount Skylight. So right now we have Ryan Cudahy here. Ryan, how you doing? Thank you for finally being able to get onto the show. That's mostly been my fault, but and pandemic. I also blame pandemic.
It's funny because, first off, thank you for having me on the show. I mean, I would actually wager to say it was neither of our fault. We were going to do this podcast on Friday, March 13th, right before a fundraiser we were going to have for Mount Skylight in Winchester. And of course, what happened the night before was when it started getting serious with COVID-19, and we made the decision these fundraisers can't happen anymore, for at least right now. So, I was looking forward to doing this then, but I'm so happy we were able to make this work. This is a podcast I've been following for a while, nothing but respect, and not to say I always agree with the opinions you have, but for the most part, we get it pretty similar. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's fair. And sometimes differing opinions just make it more interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, hey, Ryan, so I'm very excited about everything you have going on. And I want to get into the 100% Virginia film aspect of this soon. But I want to get your background. I want to, your love of filmmaking, what were your influences getting into it, and just kind of how you got started into the industry itself.
Absolutely. So I've been wanting to get serious about film since I was 13 years old. So that's really when I started to say, before that I wanted to be an actor. I was in all the local plays and all the school plays, and I realized I really want to tell the story. I'm more passionate about the film than the performances. Not to say performances aren't important in film, of course they are, but I really decided I wanted to be the person, not necessarily even behind the camera, but telling the story. So when I was 15, I joined my first filmmaking class. Charlotte Wood was my teacher at Albemarle High School. She was absolutely incredible. I was a freshman in high school, and I could tell that I was one of the people in the class that was much more serious and wanted to do this with their lives, which is why it was kind of disappointing that I made easily the worst film in the class. So that's kind of when I realized, I want to do this with my life. I cannot keep doing films of this caliber. So I didn't really have the capabilities to be learning about film as much other than what I could learn from the directors before me. So I sat down for the next year and watched. This is in the days when Netflix and I guess they still do, but when it was more popular to have the DVDs mail in. And I probably watched 400 movies that year, new movies. I remember I started with Vertigo, then moved to Silence of the Lambs, Goodfellas, the Krzysztof Kieslowski Color series. And I really realized not just to develop a taste, but to develop what filmmakers I admire, not necessarily ones whose style I'm going to emulate. But I really, after that, started testing out through high school and college exactly what my style was. I tried out my Tarantino emulation, the style of the, not necessarily noir, but gangster, nonlinear storytelling. That's not me. I really tried the coming of age style with a few films that went very well. For the purpose of character-driven stories, not necessarily. I still had a lot to learn, but really, what I figured out in regard to my filmmaking is, first off, that I want to be a producer. And for people that don't know that, not entirely sure what a producer does, I basically have two roles, and that is that I market the project, I craft our image for what the film is going to be, what our message is, but more importantly, what we're hoping to do with it. I market that out to the public through social media, through crowdfunding campaigns, through podcasts such as this one, through local news. And also my other purpose in regard to film is overlapping and building the entire production itself, from pre-production development to the actual production. And then after that, through post-production and hopefully distribution nationwide and international. That's what we're hoping for with Mount Skylight. So as a producer, that's really what my focus has been. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. I've had a number of films I'm proud of and a number of films I'm not necessarily proud of, but I'm happy with the experience it gave me. And that's where I've been for the last couple of years. I have been to a few festivals, but really I've considered moving to LA or New York or Austin, but really I decided that Virginia is where I want to be right now. Not necessarily because it's got a huge production market, but I do think it has some potential, which is a big thing we're trying to get into. But in regard to my experience, I've been doing this for about 7 years now. I'm very happy where this is going. Mount Skylight, the feature, is definitely our most ambitious project yet, but so far it's going great, and I'm hoping we can get this thing out by October. Should health be okay?
Nice. Okay, fantastic. Well, yeah, and I've been following you guys for a while now, and I'm very excited to see how you take it. And I do love producing is a passion of mine. I don't know if you know my background a little bit. I was a producer, and I took those steps. You know, I went to film school, lived in New York for a while, then I went over to LA for a while, and I was doing the studio thing, and I got out of it, and I actually fell in love with Virginia, and that's why I'm here. But so when I hear somebody say that their discipline is producing, I'm like, they get it. Not that directing is wrong. I guess I should rephrase that. When I hear somebody say, this is my passion, this is my discipline, this show, it's like they get it. They tried it. You know, they tried everything and they found what they love and they go for it. Now, that's not saying that you can't intersect, that you can't do different things, but it is nice to hear when somebody says, this is what my passion, this is what I'm for, because that's what it's all about. It's all about collaboration and finding what you're really into.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough at age 22, at a young age, to really be told that if you go to LA or New York, or you're just at a film festival and talking to someone who's been a professional about this for a while, and they ask you, what are you hoping to do in cinema? If you say, oh, you know, I'm a jack of all trades, I can do it all, they're going to take you less seriously. Maybe you are. Maybe you do have the capabilities to light a scene perfectly while also marketing it through social media. However, that's going to show them that you're not focusing on one thing as much as you could, or maybe one or two things. And that makes it a little bit more difficult for them to take you seriously, because they want to know what can they utilize your skills and talent and work ethic for. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to tell at a young age, because I told them I want to do writing, producing, and directing. Those are all things I'm passionate about, but really I decided if I had to do one of them, I would want to produce more than anything. And I agree with what you said about people having a passion or a skill set for something certain, and they know what it is, and that's what they want to implement. For instance, my friend Jack, he said, I could never do what you do. My passion is lighting. My passion is lighting a scene, Hollywooding the lights, making sure everything's good, setting it up, figuring out the best way we can make the scene pop. Now, I think people who like scenes are a different species than me, because it's not something I'm passionate about at all, but it's good for me and it's good for the entire team that those people exist. And I have so much respect for everyone, because I think there's a whole stigma with young filmmakers that in order to make a film the best film, you have to get the most passionate filmmakers as your team. So what ends up happening is you have a great DP, you have a great two great AC, some good ADs, a great director, and then you have a guy who's gotten a few short film credits up behind the camera running your sound.
Yeah. And
people tend to forget just how, and you can tell which films those are when you watch student films, and you can tell which films those are even at film festivals. And we were, I came on to I was actually not at James Madison University at the time, but my friends were directing and producing a thesis film there, Shark Dressed Men, and they asked me to come on board to help out with the producing. And we kind of decided then, let's not talk to the video program for audio. Let's talk to the music industry program for people who have been doing this for a while. They might not have field recording, but they're definitely going to know more about how to make a scene pop with the sound than someone who knows how to run a camera. So since then, we've been really focusing on harnessing the people we know. For instance, my friend Nathan Schultz, who's a master at audio. We've been talking to the people who have more of a background in audio, even if it isn't with film. We're able to take that and mold it. So the fact that people have passions like this, and they're able to have more expertise that we can all bring together as a team, is what makes, I think, the best teams so much effective. Because also they're not competing against each other to see who can do the best job. They're doing what they want to do.
Oh yeah, yeah, and like I said, it is a discipline. Like when you get it, you have to run with it. And you're absolutely right. I've said this 1,000 times. When it comes to somebody, you go on somebody's IMDb page, and it's like they've done everything. They're writer, producer, director, editor, cinematographer, everything on their movies, and it's their movies that are on IMDb. You're not going out. You're not rewarding yourself by going out and learning those disciplines under another production. You're just trying to get any job that you can with this resume.
And the advice I would give to anyone who's trying to break in, whether they're a student filmmaker or they're trying to get into this at a young age, is be adaptable. Mm-hmm. Don't always try to impress. I mean, it's good to impress, but the best way you're going to impress someone, if you're a PA on a shoot, or production manager, or a grip, or an assistant grip, the best way you're going to impress the producers and directors and DP is if your work ethic is good. Yep. You are listening to what they're saying. And if they have suggestions for you, listen to them. I've worked with too many people. I have run too many teams where a lot of people are just trying to get to the next step. All they're trying to do is impress you with how knowledgeable and how experienced or what they can bring to the table as a cameraman, and try to show off their skills or tell the audio guy what the experience he's had and why he should do it this way. I've had people that do that. And those are the people we don't invite back. Because you have to do your part, and you have to know exactly where your skill sets are, but also how you can be adaptable and how you can mold yourself to impress these people, not with your talent, although talent is important, but with your work ethic and your ability to work as a team. It's about the team. It's not about you showing off your skills as much. That's very important to me. And our team is really known for getting good content out efficiently, and that's because we're not trying to compete with each other. We're all in this together. Mm-hmm. And we're willing to take advice. But we also let our people know who are coming into this, because we have a few people coming in as interns and stuff. Be adaptable. If we tell you to do something differently, please listen to it. I'm, fairly experienced in this, but I'm fairly new to it as well. And if executive producer or producer or director of a shoot is telling me to do something differently, whether it be producing or anything else, I'm going to listen to them, because there are people out there that know more than me with this significantly.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's really important to be adaptable as a young filmmaker or someone who's just starting this out. There are a lot of people who think they are the most knowledgeable. I can guarantee you, I interned at the Cannes Film Festival when I was 19. I thought I was the most knowledgeable film person ever. Yeah, that gets tarnished the second you walk into the Palais de Cannes.
Oh, yeah. And, you kind of got to get rid of that hubris and that ego, too, because same way, you go into film school and you think, hey, man, I was the movie guy. That's what everybody wanted. And then you get in there and then you're like, oh no, everybody's this. And you can either be the type of person who gets upset about that, or you can be the type of person that's like, well, I'm always here to learn. So
a conversation I've had a lot is when people go, they try to flaunt their stuff. The best director ever is Harmony Korine. Spielberg is the most overrated director ever. Nolan's films aren't as confusing as people say they are. Francis Coppola is a terrible director. And then my response is, well, you like all the indie movies, that's great. What are your views on Brett Adamson's movies? And they go, well, his early stuff was great. His use of juxtaposition is fantastic. And I go, okay, I made that guy up. because they like to act like they know so much, but they also like to flaunt their knowledge of all of film. I think it's important to really make sure people are grounded in their views. Christopher Nolan is a great director. Spielberg has earned his right in cinema. You don't have to flaunt us by noticing their flaws. I want to hear what you can bring to the table, while also not trying for you to get me to feel like I don't know as much as I do. Not to say I'm the all-knowing expert, but when I was touring University of Southern California when I was 18 with my dad, and we were going through the film school, and there was a dad talking to his kid, or his teenager who was looking at there too, and he was just like quizzing his son in line, and when Hitchcock and Truffaut met in the 50s and they had that conversation, what was the main thing they talked about? And I wish I could tell that dad now, if your son is going into film school with that mentality, especially the University of Southern California, no one's going to appreciate them for that. We're all in this to learn and become the best filmmakers we can.
I would disagree to an extent with that. Yeah, there are some people who come in and they are know-it-alls, and sometimes that happens, or sometimes there's people who put their passion. Like maybe that was a fun thing with him and his dad, and then he walks in with that. But I've known lots of people who did come in and they had that bravado, or they had that air of arrogance to them, and they could back it up. And then you work with them, and then you find out that that arrogance is more just to kind of get their foot in the door, or just because they know it's there, but they're still a humble person when you talk to them. So, I mean, I really think coming into it, especially from a producing standpoint, you should always be willing to leave the door open. You know, sometimes, yeah, people will turn you off, but you never know what they're capable of unless you give them a chance.
Yeah, I agree. No, and it all depends on their work ethic, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I think it depends on their adaptability, and it does depend on how talented they are. And when I say that I don't appreciate a lot of egos and stuff, I'm speaking from experience, not just from other people, but from me as well. I was that cocky guy. I was that guy who came into it acting like I knew everything about film. And frankly, that lost me a lot of opportunities. It lost me a lot of opportunities because people were turned off and saying, hey, you know what? This guy actually knows he's the best thing. And when that was brought to my attention, I really thought about it. I'm like, you know, I think it's good to become as knowledgeable as you can about film. You know, I spent my high school years watching as many films as I could all over the map, whether it be 2001: A Space Odyssey or Dodgeball. It's important to really get a good realm of understanding, but you also want to be able to harness that ego and not make it too obvious to people. Just in my opinion, I think it's important to be knowledgeable, but you need to know when to flaunt it. And I would be a hypocrite for saying it annoys me with other people. I did it all the time. It's important to know when to make sure that you're in this to make the best stories and tell the best films you can.
Yeah.
And I think having good knowledge of film is great, but also knowing that this is a team effort, that's the most important thing for me.
Oh, absolutely. And when I say having that arrogance, having that cockiness and things like that, like it helps me as a producer in a sense. Like when you're going to the studio and you're saying, hey, listen, you know, you got to kind of push your own weight around to get what you want, because they need to respect you too. They need to know that you know what you're talking about. You need to assert yourself. And I can tell just by your demeanor, you have it and you have the knowledge. So you're going to take it and you're going to go far. That's why I really wanted to get you on the show. So you can always tell when somebody walks into a room. And that's what I like. I like a good producer who can come in there. They can assert themselves. They can assert their point of view. You know, not in a way that, like you said, makes you look cocky, like a cocky asshole, for lack of a better term. But for somebody who can walk in there and say, I'm a confident person, I know what I'm doing, you should listen to me.
Well, yeah, I was in a film academy in high school, and my instructor, Dave Ruby, who was without a doubt the best teacher I ever had in anything, he told us, because networking is incredibly important in film. I learned that pretty early on. I was lucky to. And he said, approach it like you're talking to girls at parties in college. If you go up to a girl in college just to get to know her and start flaunting how cool you are and you're in a frat or you're the head of the honor society and all this stuff, who's going to want to talk to you? Personalize, you know? It's the same deal with networking in film. If you go up, and La La Land had a scene with that perfectly, where the guy walks up and goes, hey, I have a knack for world building. There's a lot of buzz about me. People are talking about me. When he meets Emma Stone, it's an art form in and of itself to produce. And I think it's important to just be like, this is a personal business. People just want to talk to you. People want to get to know you. Don't just make it all about business. Make it about relationships. It's more important in film than any other business. And I'm lucky that I've gotten to make a lot of relationships that way. You know, I was working, my movie Swipe was at the Washington West Film Festival about a few years ago. And I had my Filmmakers badge. I saw this fantastic documentary, and the filmmaker was there. It had Stephen Hawking in it. It had Buzz Aldrin and all these scientists. And people were trying to impress him. And I listened to what my teacher said there. I just snuck my way into the conversation. I'm like, hey, man, my name's Ryan Cudahy. I have a movie here. I just want to ask you some questions, about why you chose to look into the camera instead of like a regular interview. And I want to know what you shot it on. What was your method? And we started talking about that. We started to talk about our favorite craft beers. And long story short, I ended up working for that guy at the YouTube headquarters in New York on a shoot. So I think it's important to build those relationships rather than just trying to flaunt. That's very important to me.
Yeah. Oh, no, I understand. Great. Yeah. And again, it wasn't about flaunting. I just said you got to walk in with some kind of, not an arrogance, but a confidence.
Absolutely.
So that way they know you should be there. If somebody, Absolutely. Same thing, if you go up to a girl and you're like, hi, how you doing? You already shot yourself in the foot. But if you walk in and say, hey,
you see those guys at parties in college, all the girls are dancing and having a good time, and they're just right outside the dance floor, just like.
Exactly.
I get what you mean. Not to hate on those people, but be a personable person. That's
confidence, and it will go a long way. And that's what I see with what you're doing with your marketing for Mount Skylight. And I love that you shot the short film. I love that you're using it as your, I don't want to say stepping stone, but very much so in helping collect for the feature, the fundraising for the feature. So many filmmakers have done that. And I think it's an effective thing that young filmmakers seem to have lost on them today. They want to go right to that feature. They don't want to take what they have and build to the feature. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, not only does it make sense, that's what I did. You want to talk about learning by example. When I was 20 years old, I made my first feature film on $1,000. It didn't work. It was called Jeremy Sin, and it was all about my past experiences with depression and bullying. And it was an important film for me to make personally, but it became very clear pretty quickly that this is not, I'm not at that level yet. You know, I don't know, forget how to direct or shoot a scene. I didn't know how to produce a film of that caliber. Now, at the end of the day, we did it. We did it from beginning to end. It's done, and I think that's a lot better than I was expecting to at some points in the film. But yeah, I mean, the short film of Mount Skylight was fun because Mount Skylight, you know, is a film that my friend Tristan came up with, Tristan Schuler, about a group of hikers who are each struggling with their own battles with addiction and mental illness. And they are celebrating their sobriety, 9 months of sobriety, with a weekend hike. And when they return to their town, everyone is gone. They have to figure out what happened and how to survive. That was our short film. It's a short film I'm very proud of. We shot it, like we'll probably talk about, we shot it all in Virginia. We made Virginia, I think, look pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
With Shenandoah and everything else. And at the end of the day, the biggest critique we got was also a positive, which is we want to see more. We want to see, this story cannot end the way it did. We want to see more. Now, that is a blessing and a curse. The curse being we didn't tell as compelling a story as we could have because we didn't get into the characters enough, because we didn't tell a complete story. But at the end of the day, we always had higher ambitions for this. And the fact that that's in demand and the fact that people want to see more kind of shows us that we were lucky enough to have that stepping stone to keep telling this story that we care so much about. Okay. So I think that's going to be very important moving forward. And I'm hoping that, and I believe that it will happen, that people will come and their questions, first off, will be answered, or at least some of them that they had in the short film in regard to the characters and everything else, and that they'll be able to enjoy it in the same way that they did with the short film while making it a little bit more coherent.
Well, yeah, I got to tell you, the nice one, first of all, you made Virginia look gorgeous in this movie. You know, so you guys made a beautiful short film, and anybody listening or watching, make sure you go and check it out. Mount Skylight, you can find it on all over on social media, and they do have the website, which is mtskylight.com, correct?
It's actually mtskylightfilm.com.
mtskylightfilm.com. I have it written down here. I should look down. I was just excited to talk to you about it. So yeah, it is a beautiful film. I do want to see more. I'm excited for you. I want to see the feature. Now, one thing, you've kind of answered this in how producing is your discipline, but I have to give you a lot of kudos on this. It is very hard for any filmmaker to say, especially after they've made something like this short film that you did, to turn over and say to another person, to another filmmaker, can you direct this? You know, or hand off those reins. And you did it. But there's so much respect for filmmakers who do that, because, you know, I've done that in the past too, where I've written something and I'm like, this is going to be my passion project. Then I see something, you know, I saw something in a young filmmaker back then, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. This is the person that needs to do this. And I had to hand that off. And it wasn't easy, but at the same time, I knew I was making the right decision. So how was your feeling? And, you know, just I would love to hear your feelings on that, and, you know, because I think that's good advice for young filmmakers, you know, and that helps with the collaboration, the understanding of collaboration. Absolutely.
You know, that is important. I know some people that write their script, then they want to direct it. They want to have say of and it's important as a director to have some say, but they want to have control over every element. They don't want to just direct the actors. They don't want to just tell the DP what to do. They want to constantly question the sound person. They want to constantly question the lighting. And then they also want to edit it. And then they also want to distribute it. It's like we were talking about earlier, you need to know your forte. And while I'm passionate about directing, I enjoy it. And I think I've done a decent job in the past. I also know there was a number of reasons I'm not directing this thing. And one of them was I didn't want to wear myself too thin. I know that at the end of the day, this is a passion project that, while I'm very proud of it, if I was directing this thing and producing it, I mean, writing, directing, and producing a short film is one thing, and I did that. but producing and directing a feature film is entirely different, especially when you've never done it before. So I think it was important not to wear myself too thin. In addition, I do genuinely think that our director, Taylor McNeilis, will do a far better job than I would. And I have to acknowledge that. Not just because I don't think I would do a good job. I think I would do an okay job. I think I would do fine. But Taylor has exhibited a work ethic with all of our films that I've never seen before with a director so passionate about these projects. Taylor started out on the short film as the first AC, first assistant camera. And for all the people who were working on the film, he had so much drive and so much potential that I felt as a producer, I've never really unlocked with him. I've worked with him a lot, but I felt like I never gave him his due. So he had written a short film a few years ago called Lunch Break about two girls that rob a dry cleaners. It's an action comedy.
Nice.
And we shot it last year. And this was the time that it was his first time directing. It was also his first time shooting it as well. So he wrote, directed, and was the DP. And he blew me away in every element. He was absolutely incredible. One of the most disciplined directors I've ever seen. Because directing, in addition to having a vision and knowing how you want to tell the story is one thing. Having the work ethic and the ability to lead a team is just as important, in my opinion. And he has that resolve. He has that discipline. He played football for James Madison University. So he knows what it takes to be on a team, and now he knows how to run one, and he proved that to me. After that, he directed 1059, which was a 48-hour film we did in Richmond, and we made it to the top 10, and he did a fantastic job. Yeah. So that was when I knew that this was the guy who was going to tell my story, not just because he was talented, not just because he had great work ethic, but because of how passionate he was for this story in particular. So Taylor's already started to run the project. He's already started to plan it, and he's already impressed me. We haven't even begun production yet, and I already know he's going to do a fantastic job. So it would depend on the project. It is hard, giving your baby off to somebody else. But when it's in his hands and it's in good hands, and it's in the hands of someone I know that's not just coming on to this to be a director. They're coming on to it because they love this story, and they love a story that we've worked on for so long. I have nothing but confidence in him. I've seen him work. I know how talented he is, and it's sad to give it away. It's also incredibly relieving and captivating knowing that he's going to do a great job on this thing.
Oh yeah, and I have no doubt either. Just looking into doing my research with you guys, and I'm really excited to see what he does on Skylight. And his vision of it. Now I am very intrigued, and I know a lot of people I've talked to about this here in Virginia are very intrigued. Actually, all over. I've talked to this about quite a few people, friends from the industry, and I was like, it's 100% Virginia film. And they didn't understand that when I was talking. I was like, it's 100%. So you are raising the funds in Virginia. You're shooting everything in Virginia, using Virginia actors. Am I correct in all this?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I love that idea, and I especially love your reasoning for it, from everything I've read, as in to help kind of build the tourism here, or help build the film, a film initiative here and things like that. So, can you tell me more about that? What brought that on? How come, why 100% Virginia film?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we made the short film, we really realized with the drone shots we got and with our whole subject matter of hiking and stuff that there's so much untapped potential in Virginia. I mean, you see some films shot in Virginia, but almost all of them are period pieces. Some of them are great period pieces, such as Lincoln, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are that many films here. And the question is, why not? Why aren't there? I mean, it's not just Shenandoah. I mean, Shenandoah is beautiful. The valleys are beautiful, but we also have beaches. We have Accomack. We have Virginia Beach. We also have metropolitan areas. We have Richmond. There's a great market for film. We have Northern Virginia. We also have farmland. We have Farmville. We have Nelson County there's so many areas in Virginia where there's such an untapped resource for not just great locations, but an abundance of great locations. Now, my question of why is there not much is because the incentives are so low. Georgia in 2017 spent $800 million on film incentives, and that's tax reimbursements, grants. They want production there, and you've seen how good it is. There's Marvel, there's limitless film and television production. Atlanta, and in New York, they have a cap on incentives like most states. Atlanta doesn't have, or Georgia, doesn't have a cap. New York has $400 million cap. Virginia has a $9 million cap. So needless to say, it's pretty low.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big reasons that there's not a lot of film production here. So last year, I guess at the beginning of this year, I was speaking with a number of delegates. I sat down with them because there was a bill going through the state legislature in Virginia to raise the incentives from $9 million to $13 million. Good start. You know, it's not great, but it's getting us there. And I sat down with them, and all they wanted to talk about, one, they said they would vote for the bill. Unfortunately, it didn't pass. I only met with like 15. There are a lot of delegates out there, but I sat down with a lot, and a lot of them voted yes. But all they wanted to talk about was Mount Skylight, the feature, because they wanted to know what we can bring to the table. I told them from the start, our whole pitch with this film is to show just how beautiful Virginia is. And they wanted to see, so when this film comes out, what are you hoping to do with it? What's your distribution? Why do you want to do Virginia? So in other words, Mount Skylight hasn't even been made yet. And already we have interest of the delegates who can make this happen. So if we get enough interest with the delegates and the state senators and help raise the film incentives that way, we can show to the state legislature if there's enough demand once we get distribution and film tourism how production benefits the local economies, which we're very much intending to do, and we already have a lot. That'll show the state legislature that film incentives are worth raising, and we can bring more production to the state. And I think right now, frankly, with everything going on, that anything we can do to stimulate the local economies is crucial. I mean, we've already pledged and we've already begun support with a number of businesses in Virginia. We're shooting in Winchester and Woodstock. Instead of putting ourselves up in Hilton's, we've booked 2 cabins, local cabins near Bryce Resort that we can stay in, and that's helping benefit local people who need their houses filled right now that aren't getting it through Airbnb or anything like that. We vowed that all of our catering is going to be local Virginia companies, and they're already willing to help us out there. Our gear is being rented through a local gear rental shop, Capital Camera in Alexandria. So this is very important to us. In addition, we're also forming partnerships with different companies that are able to give us a little bit of product placement so that we can make this happen in a more efficient way, while also making this a community project. A lot of people have been excited about that. We're in talks with a number of places to form partnerships with some investments. Monte Falco Vineyard, for example, in Ruckersville has given us some money so we can have some product placement for their films, so we can get the word out for them as well. So it's very important to us to make this a Virginia film in 2 ways in regard to how it can benefit the economy. One is to show how production can benefit localities and stuff like that. The other is to have film tourism. Now, film tourism is when you go to a city or you go on vacation and you look up the different locations from films and you go to them and take pictures and stuff like that. It's actually a pretty booming craze right now. So the more we can get that going and benefit localities in Virginia that way, definitely will be helpful, and we can also show the legislature that that's going to happen as well. Now we're hoping and we're applying to get some money from the state. There's a governor's motion picture opportunity fund that we'll be applying to in August to get some reimbursement with the film. If we don't get that, we're still entirely shooting this thing in Virginia, and we're definitely looking to benefit the economy, benefit the state, and show how beautiful it is in every way we can.
And I could just tell that just from the short film, and that I'm guessing that wasn't the initial, like not the entirety, wasn't to make 100% short film when you first started that, right? But look what you did for Virginia right there, you know. And I highly support this. I especially think this is an amazing state that has so many different facets, like you said, you know, the metropolises, the beaches, just the Shenandoah alone, it would be an amazing place to shoot anything. So, you know, I love this. And just to kind of cap off here, but I want to talk to you. You are starting your auditions now. I had mentioned this earlier, so it's 100% actors based in Virginia, correct?
Yeah, with the exception of one of our actors, so I guess it's more like 98.2% Virginia cast and crew.
They'll be here long enough, don't worry.
Yeah, he went to James Madison University. He moved to LA afterwards, so he's not technically in Virginia, but he is the best actor I know, or at least one of them. His name's Brendan Gaffey, and so we want to still have him part of the project. We can't afford to lose him. He plays Ross in the film, and he's completely committed. So he has his ties to Virginia. He's not necessarily a resident of Virginia, but we're still excited to have him. Other than that, we're definitely looking to keep this as local as we can. We want to give jobs to people in the area. Some people have been hitting us up from Australia. We've had people for auditions from Vienna in Austria, not Vienna, Virginia, which is a very important distinction. Vienna, Virginia, we'd be able to make that work. Unfortunately, we can't always pertain to that, but we're definitely considering people from Virginia. If you're in DC, we might consider it, depending on the situation. But we are trying to keep this as localized as we can.
Yeah, no, and it makes perfect sense. And so auditions have started already. And I mean, with this crazy times right now, I'm guessing you have to do everything by sent in videos, correct?
Yeah, and the good news is we've had a lot of luck. We have, I believe, there are 85 people so far that we've considered that have submitted. We started sending out the sides for the self-taped auditions 2 days ago, and already we've had a lot of really good people. So I'm excited to see what happens. We're hoping to get all of them in by May 15th and get callbacks going by May 30th. We have some time because we're shooting in October. But we're really impressed with what we're seeing so far, and I encourage anyone to submit if they want to. We're having some great people so far. But if you're in Virginia, you're an actor, check out all our information, because we would love to see what you're capable of with an audition.
Which everybody, if you're watching or you're listening, all this information will be in the description below, so that way you can reach out to Ryan. And hey, I mean, this is a fantastic thing, and I think anybody would be happy, should be excited enough. Get in on this. Get in on the fundraising. Get in on, if you're an actor auditioning, or even if you're a filmmaker here in Virginia. I'm sure people could send their resumes to you too as well, and you'll be looking for a crew. And you're starting in October. So how long do you think the shoot will go? We're
hoping for 1 month. That's what we've booked for. That's what that's how long our rent is. That's how long we're staying, and we're scheduling currently. The thing is that if this virus comes back, which it very well might, we'll definitely reschedule. But I can guarantee we're shooting this thing at some point. But for right now, we have it planned for October. We're going to make sure no health violations were made here. We're gonna be safe. But for right now, you can count on us shooting in October.
Well, I gotta say, I mean, I love talking to you. I would love, once the studio can open up, I can have you in. I would love to have you in as well, and just talk movies with you, because I mean, you're a knowledgeable guy. And but I do want to say I support this. I love what you guys are doing. I love your resolve. Like you said, I can see the producer in you. One day you're gonna be holding one of those little gold statues. I can see it. As you know, as a producer, when you have a producer's mind, your best talent is finding the right talent. So, and I can see that in you. You're going to be a great producer. And I can't wait to see what my Mount Skylight becomes as a feature. I'm very excited for it. Hopefully we can get you guys all on the show too, and talk all aspects. That would be fantastic. But yeah, you got your support here. Guys, make sure that you go over to mtskylightfilm.com. Donate, like I said, if you're looking to send in your resume, things like that, reach out to Ryan and the rest of the crew. And Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful.
Yeah, and again, I can't wait to see big things that come from you. And I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on with the shooting in October.
You have a good one.
You too. You take care. All right, buddy?
Absolutely.
Bye.